Hello, everyone, and welcome to Petite to Queen's Claim Your Career Crown podcast. I'm your host, Lynn, and I'm joined by our VP of Operations today, along with our wonderful guest, Liz Wilcox. And I have to tell you, this is going to be a great conversation for all of you who are out there in entrepreneurs or who have side hustles, because we're going to be talking about 3 simple strategies that you need to get your email open rates up. Way up. Okay, so Liz, I'm going to give you a little bit of bio, so everybody sit back because I'm going to look at some notes. Liz is a solopreneur. She's an author, mother, and she's dedicated to finding the best way and to be her best self in her life and her career, which is wonderful. And she's dedicated her second passion, which I love this. Her first passion is 90s pop culture trivia. All right, but her second passion is to help online business owners with online course content. Liz has found the lucrative magic that's email marketing, and she sold her blog to teach online entrepreneurs. And since then, she's become a course creator. She's helped multiple clients master their sales, meaning that she's sold 5- and 6-figure launches by leveraging the power of static and strategic, not static, but strategic email. Gotta look at my notes better, right? And what's amazing is Liz been featured on some of the top entrepreneurship podcasts, including the Heather Sager Show, Do You Even Blog, and Rebel Boss Ladies. Woohoo! All right. Among many others, and including now our show. Liz, thank you so much for joining us today. We are thrilled to have you.
Oh my gosh, what an intro. Who wrote that? Thank you guys so much. I'm really excited. I love email marketing. I love making sales, and I can't wait to share everything that I know today.
All right. Well, we are ready to dig in. And for anyone who's joining us for that very first time, why don't you go ahead and click that subscribe button, and then you won't miss a single episode of the amazing shows that we have here on Claim Your Career Crown. And while you're at it, please click all 5 stars and give us that wonderful, loving review wherever you get your podcasts. All righty, let's get right into this, Liz. And I'm going to kick us off. And so, how did email marketing become one of your 2 major passions, with 90s trivia being the other? We've got to have a conversation offline about that. And how did you start a business around that?
Yeah, so I love this question because I feel like a lot of email marketers, if you listen to other podcasts or something, the majority of them will tell you, oh, well, I started off as a copywriter. I was writing for other people. I did it completely backwards. I started off as a blogger. I had an RV travel blog. So I actually used to live and travel in my RV caravan, depending on where you are in the world. And I started my business in 200 square feet. I had no internet, but man, I had a dream. Like, I really wanted to make it work. And I started my business. A lot of people start, especially travel blogs, right? They start it as kind of like a travel log, a little diary. I know for people my age, millennials that are getting into RVs, it's kind of like a way to say, like, hey, mom, I'm not dead. I'm having a good time. Don't stress about me, right? But I started mine as a business, and I really wanted to make it work. At the time I was married, I think my daughter was like 2 or 3, and I really, we bought an RV to kind of downsize and save money. And I started Googling, and I saw all these bloggers, and oh yeah, you can make money, and this is how we travel. And I looked at my then husband and I said, oh my gosh, people move these things. Let's go. And he was in the military. He said, how are we going to do that? I'm in the military. They tell us where to go. We can't just go places. I said, oh, well, I see all these kids starting blogs. I'm going to do that. And so I started a blog. And of course, you listen to podcasts like this, and they tell you, you gotta sell something. That's how you make money. Or you do ads, or you sell something. I said, well, dang, getting a lot of page views, that sounds like a lot of work. So I'm going to create a product. Usually people think the opposite. I kind of go against the grain here usually. You'll pick up on that pretty quickly. But so within 6 months, I had created a product. I kept hearing all these gurus, quote unquote, say, oh, well, the one thing I wish I would have done when I started my blog was take my email list more seriously. And, I was seeing all these things like, oh, how to be a millionaire in 5 years, how to get your six figures in the first 2 years. And I'm like, yeah, that's what I'm going to do. So I took it very seriously. I started with the email list and, I started creating my very first product. And I'm going to say this, and I hope it's inspirational. So, my idea for my first product, like I said, I was traveling around in this RV. In the RV, you have your own sewage tank underneath, we'll say, and it's called the Black Tank. So, my idea was to create a book about funny, crappy RV stories, and it was called Tales from the Black Tank. And I launched it to an email list of about 300 people in that after about 6 or 7 months of building my blog. And I think I made something like 30 sales. It got picked up by an international sponsor. And in the first 90 days, I had made over $7,000 with a book about poop. So I tell you that to say, whatever your side, Lynn mentioned about, you're listening, maybe you've got a side hustle going on, whatever your idea is for your side hustle, it was way better than my idea. And I was able to make money from that. So, I just want you to know, like, whatever your idea is, people need it, people want it. So from there, I just started building other products. I built a digital summit with partners. You name a digital product, I gave it a go. And it was a few years in, and I knew my people needed a course on RV maintenance. They kept asking me RV maintenance questions. And so I built this RV course. I said, hey, are you interested in an RV maintenance resource? I had 141 people click on my email and to say, yes, I'm interested. And it took about 100 days from that click to open the cart and close it. And at the end of the cart close, at the end of the launch, I had 141 sales. And so I knew that email marketing worked. I knew that's what I was really good at. The more I started telling that story, they're like, oh my God, 141, that's crazy. And I'm like, well, I know my people. I knew what they wanted. I knew, what they needed inside the course, what they needed to feel comfortable to buy, because I was constantly in communication through email marketing. And so I was able to see like just freaking outrageous conversion rates. And so I ended up selling that RV blog to go all in on the email marketing. Um, Lynn, Amanda, and I were talking about this behind the scenes that, like I get so sad when people, create a course and they make, only like a little bit of sales. And I'm like, no, I know how to do it. I want to teach you. So now I'm just on a freaking mission to help all my online business buddies make money through email marketing. So that's how I got into email.
Yeah, I think that's wonderful. And I kind of love how you came into it kind of unexpectedly, or, you kind of just stumbled into it through something else. And I think that's how a lot of the businesses come about. That's how a lot of true passions come about. Is you kind of just stumble into it on accident, and it works out really nicely.
Yeah, 100%. Well, my biggest pet peeve is inefficiency. So I'm a very simple, and I lived in 200 square feet. I had a toddler. I was stealing internet. If you've ever been to the woods, you can imagine how crappy my internet was, and so I was just, trying to make it work. And everyone said, email, email, email. So I just, over time slowly developed this email strategy that just really took off, and now I teach it and it's awesome, and I love seeing other people make money through email.
Yeah, I think that's wonderful. You claim to have 3 simple strategies for increasing email open rates. What are those 3 strategies, and why do they work?
Oh, great question. So first of all, every single email that anyone ever writes, whether it's your newsletter, a sales email, or some kind of, you have an automation happening, every single email you ever write has 3 jobs. First, the first job is to get seen. You want that email to get seen, right? Second, you want that email to get opened. And third, you want someone to take action on that email, whether that is, click here, hit reply, go buy this thing, or just, I hope you read to the bottom and got to the PS, whatever that is, right? So I'm going to say that again. You want it to get seen, you want it to get opened, and you want someone to take action on it. So when you can have those 3 jobs, completed over and over again, that's when your open rate really starts to increase, right? Because of course they're seeing it, they're opening it, they're taking action. That's when, think of it as, like I just pictured like a dance party, right? Somebody starts the music. If that first person doesn't start dancing or start moving a little bit, nothing's going to happen. It's the party's going to be a dud. But the more people you can get moving and grooving on the dance floor, like the more fun you're having, right? So think of that in email marketing, right? If you can just get from the very get-go, get someone kind of moving and grooving, getting them opening it, seeing it, taking action, that's when things really start heating up. So the 3 strategies that I always tell people: number 1, you really want to have that welcome sequence that warms people up to you, tells people, hey, this is who I am. This is, to go with that analogy, this is the kind of music I'm playing. Like, do you want to dance type of thing? But you've got to have expectations in that welcome sequence. This is something I don't hear a lot of people talking about. And if you learn nothing else from Liz Wilcox, like pull over your car right now, get out your notebook. Like, this is the one thing. Of course, you can get my freebie and I write the whole welcome sequence, but really I just want you to have this one sentence somewhere in your welcome sequence. If you do nothing else for the rest of the week, this is going to change your life. So somewhere in your welcome sequence, you've got to set the expectations. You've got to say, this is what I'm going to email you about. This is when I'm going to email you. This is when, my podcast comes out on Wednesdays. I post on Instagram. I've got a face, whatever it is, right? But here's the one sentence that you're going to put in that's going to change your life. It's going to change your email marketing life. It's going to change every new subscriber, the way that they think of you from the very beginning. I am going to offer you free and paid products, free and paid resources, free and paid services, whatever it is you say. Because this is the thing, especially when I see a lot of like coaches or bloggers or people that are just starting off with their side hustles, and they're like, oh, I know I want to start an email list. I know I need this welcome sequence. I don't have anything to sell yet. And then, you go to sell a year later, 2 years later, whenever you get your stuff together, and nobody buys. That's because nobody knows you're a business. You're just some lady that's been emailing for 2 years giving free tips. They don't know you're a business. But if you tell them right off the bat, I'm going to offer you free and paid resources, it just kind of, if you're just listening to the podcast, you can't see me, but I'm kind of flipping the switch in the back of my head where it just flips the switch like, oh, they're going to offer me paid resources. And whether you do that the next week, the next email, or the next year, they know it right from the get-go. And if they don't like it, they're going to unsubscribe, which is great for you, because then they're not going to be on your list dragging down that open rate. That open rate, I know there's a lot of changes actually going on right now. At the time of this recording, it's June 2021, and there's some changes going on with Apple, but open rate is still an important metric that you should be paying attention to no matter what. And if you've got a bunch of people on your list that, don't like that you're a business, that open rate's going to go down. So just tell them right off the bat. So that's the first thing. You've got to have that welcome sequence. It tells people, hey, this is who I am. This is the kind of music I like to listen to, type of thing. This is who I'm talking to. This is what I'm talking about. And I'm a business. That's the first thing. If you think of it, that's the foundation of your house, right? It's got to be rock solid. Number 2, you want to get replies. If you can get a reply to an email, that email, I call them the internet gods. Nobody really know. It's so complicated. The Google, Outlook, Apple inbox algorithm, nobody really knows what's going on there. But I call it the internet gods, the inbox gods, to make them happy and to put you into the inbox instead of that spam or that promotions folder. If someone replies to you, 99% of the time for the next, let's say, 3 to 6 months, you are going to go into their inbox. And if you can go into their inbox when we've got a new lead, right? If I go into Amanda's inbox, when Lynn signs up, it's like, oh, well, I know Amanda really likes Liz's emails. So as the internet god, I think Lynn will too. I'm going to put that in the inbox instead of the spam or the promo or whatever. So obviously, if you've got 200,000 people on your list, I don't suggest that. You don't want to be getting a ton of replies. But as you're building your email list, if your open rate is not where it needs to be, and I would say if it's below 30% on average, you need to get some replies. You need to get, Amanda and Lynn saying, hey, Liz, what's up? I'm so excited to be here. Or, yeah, I want a product on X, whatever it is. Like, oh, yeah, I live in Seattle, whatever the case is, whatever you can get them to reply to. And you can do that with very easy questions in that welcome sequence. I would say go with a yes or no question. There's nothing, the only simpler question is to ask their name, which you can do. If you don't have a form that asks their name, you can just put the very first email, P.S. I suck at technology. What's your name? I'd like to know who I'm actually talking to, right? And they're going to, that's the easiest question anyone can answer. Or it could be a P.S. yes or no. For me, it's something like, P.S. have you started your email list? Hit yes or hit reply with a yes or no. That's very easy. I see a lot of people making mistakes about trying to ask like, why did you get into business? Or, if you're like, let's say you're an NSYNC blogger. Why do you love NSYNC so much? That's going to take me hours. I'm not going to answer that. But if you ask me NSYNC or Backstreet Boys, I'm going to hit reply. I'm going to tell you NSYNC right away, right? It's going to be super simple answer. So you want to give something that's a super simple answer, something that right now you're strangers, right? You don't know each other. They're not going to tell you their whole life story, very rarely. There's always exceptions to the rules, but you want to ask a yes or no, and that's going to help you get replies. And if you do that at the welcome sequence, when you go later to ask, say you're launching a product, to ask that question, hey, are you interested in this resource? They've already hit reply to you from the very beginning. They're quote unquote trained to, hit reply. They're going to tell you, heck yeah, I'm interested. That sounds great, Liz. Let's do it. And then the third thing you want to do is a cold scrub. That is just getting those emails that those people off your list that haven't opened in, let's say, 90 days. Every email service provider, ConvertKit, ActiveCampaign, MailChimp, etc., they kind of have different days, but normally it's about 90 days. So if they haven't opened in a quarter, like, let's get them out of here. You're paying for your email list, most likely, right? Or you will be as it grows. And so you want to get those people that aren't opening off your list. I like to think of it as like, if you don't want to buy from me, I don't want to pay for you, because this is a business. And remember, you told them that, right? You've got that first strategy in place where you're telling them this is a business. I'm going to offer you paid resources. And so if nobody's opening for whatever reason, we want to do a cold scrub. We want to get those cold emails off of the list. Just doing that, if you do nothing else, you go to your email list or your email provider and you look at the cold emails, even if you have 100 people and there's only 10 cold, if you get those people off your list, your open rates are going to go up automatically. I mean, I'm not going to say they're going to skyrocket, but it's just getting that dead weight off of there. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, it was really actually interesting because I'm a real believer in the welcome sequence. But we haven't, our welcome sequence does not do that. We don't ask them a question, and we also don't tell them what's going to be happening, but we do introduce ourselves. We provide a second resource to deliver another piece of value. I mean, we have a 3-part welcome sequence, and each one there's value that's delivered, but that's really, really quite interesting. And so like, okay, well, now that we have that, do we go back now and just point that out in one of our emails, our weekly emails to them? Because it's really fascinating. How did you, I mean, trial and error, or how did you figure out these 3 strategies and how and why they work? I'm just curious.
Yeah. So just like you, everyone, oh, you got to have a welcome sequence, show a ton of value. But I actually have a background. I have a master's degree in leadership, and I was thinking about, I had my welcome sequence in place. It's doing okay, right? The welcome sequence is always going to be your most open emails because those people are actively searching for a solution. Um, but I don't remember if somebody mentioned it, or I just kind of, through thinking about, how I would give a presentation or how I would introduce myself at a conference if I was giving a talk or a workshop. uh, you know, when you're in the classroom or a workshop or you're doing some kind of corporate training, you always give expectations or an objective, right? We are here today to whatever, even at a wedding, we are gathered here today for the union of X and Y, like John and Amy, right? Like even the minister tells you what the heck is about to happen. So why aren't we doing that in our welcome sequence, right? We have to introduce ourselves. Of course, we're giving value. Let's think of, I see In Sync in the background of, on my wall right now, like even at concerts, like, hi, we're In Sync. We're going to sing some songs off our new album, whatever. Like they're always giving expectation. We hope you have a great time. Even, picture like you've got a mic, right? Like I say In Sync, or you say sync, right? Like we're always giving those expectations if we are the ones, quote unquote, on stage. And your welcome sequence is kind of that beginner, like, hey, this is the beginning of our relationship. Let me tell you how it's about to go down. And so that's where I came up with that. And also, like I mentioned way earlier, I started my blog not as this travel diary, I started as a business. And so I wanted people to know right off the bat, like, hey, I don't have any products yet, but dang it, I'm going to make one. I just know it. Like, I have to. That's what the gurus, quote unquote, tell me. I have to make my own product. So that's where that sentence came into play. That one I had like since the beginning of Liz Wilcox email marketing was, I'm going to offer you free and paid resources. I just wanted people to know right off the bat, hey, I'm a business. I want you to take me seriously. I'm sure we've all had a friend. I see it a lot with YouTubers where, oh, I've got this YouTube channel. I'm creating all this free content. People love me, even huge, people with 1 million subscribers. And then they try to launch a product and it fails. Why? Because they've been giving away everything for free. No one expects you to sell something. They think you're getting money elsewhere, ads, whatever, right? But if you set that expectation just right from the front, we do it every day. We do it with our kids. We do it with our employees. We do it with, our trainings. Musicians do it on TV, right? Everyone's always setting expectations. So why aren't we doing that in the inbox?
Yeah. No,
Yeah. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense, especially like when you start mentioning these other examples, like with weddings and concerts. And you're right. I mean, we do have people setting expectations all the time, so why not in the email sequence too?
Mm-hmm.
Um, Email marketing can often be such a dry topic. How can we stay playful and inspired with our email marketing to make sure it stays engaging for our audience?
Oh my gosh, Amanda, you're breaking my heart. Dry topic. This is so juicy.
You
Um,
make it juicy.
Thank you. Yes. Well, number one, like a lot of this advice, I have a 2-hour workshop called Open Sesame to help you get your open rates up. But one of the things I'm so glad you asked this question, because one of the big things I talk about in that workshop is just be yourself. If you are trying to be this, like, ah, there's a lot of advice out there that is, tell more stories in your email. You've got to have a hook. You've got to do this. You've got to do that. Well, I don't know about you, but when somebody tells me to tell a story, holy moly, I get so freaked out. I've got my 10th grade English teacher behind me, Mrs. Miller, hey. She's like, you got to have a beginning, a middle, an end. The conclusion can't say anything that you didn't say in the beginning. And, don't end a sentence with a preposition, and all these things, right? And that, I think, trying to follow those storytelling rules can make it really dry. It can make it more than dry, like you're choking, you're suffocating, because it's just so scary. A lot of us, we didn't get into business to tell stories. We got into business because, we're good at what we do and we want to help others. I'm good at email. I wanted to build a business about RVing. Maybe you're a crochet blogger, whatever, right? You got into business to do what you're best at, and that probably isn't storytelling. And when we try to put ourselves in that box, it can be really hard. So I just want you, any email you write, just just be yourself. Not everyone can be, a 90s culture trivia queen that's loud and, wearing loud colors and having crazy things. I don't want you to be that. You don't have to be that to not be dry, but you have to be yourself. You have to share a little bit about yourself. Instead of telling stories, I always tell people to tell personal updates, like 2 to 3 sentences, right? Like, I'm gonna pretend my mouse is my phone here. Like, I'm on the phone with Amanda. Hey, Amanda, what's up? And oh, I just got off this podcast recording. It was pretty funny. What's up with you? That's the personal update. I just got off a podcast. It was pretty funny. I just wrote the whole newsletter right there. That's not a story. She doesn't have to tell a story about, my rainbow sweater or whatever the heck is being pointed out to her right now. She can just, cut to the chase, and that, it might seem dry, but the thing about email is people are busy. They're going to their inbox because they're looking for something just for them. And, they, if you don't have time to write a story, they probably don't have time to read a story. They're just looking for that real quick connection. Oh yeah, Amanda, she does a podcast. I remember that. Um, and then you cut to whatever, the podcast link, right? And just giving that little bit of personality in the personal update. And I'm talking 2 to 3 sentences, folks. Like, do not overthink this. That's my number one rule. Like, don't overthink it, baby. Like, you got this. I know you do. You can give a personal update. You do it all day long. And then just segue into the content. That makes it a little bit personal without having to try to tell this big story or be someone that you're not. Yeah.
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 No, I mean, I think being your authentic self is so important. And
Mhm.
if you, and it isn't that hard. And it is, just sharing a piece it's not like it has to be something private. I mean, even on our email,
Correct.
I've done things like I've shared favorite recipes, and, with because it's just sort of like, well, this is like one of the things that is one of my passions. I love to cook. I love to, refine recipes. I mean, I took months and months to figure out like this perfect fish taco recipe. And so I thought it was really fun. I shared that last year at the beginning of the year, or in June, like when you're headed into the
Mhm.
summer. And
Mhm.
and it was, I've always I think that that's one thing that it's not like it's something that's, it's sort of like what you might put on a Facebook post on your personal Facebook page, or to your point, even tell like, a coworker or something. It doesn't have to be some kind of private secret. It's just normal stuff that shows that you're a human being just like they are.
Yeah, yeah, and you just want to just make that personal connection, and that doesn't have to be hard. If you just do the personal update like you're talking to a friend, you're just catching up with them for the week.
What are some of the most common mistakes that you see in email marketing, and how can we avoid them or fix them once we've made them?
Yeah. So, number one, going back to thinking you have to tell stories. It doesn't have to be that complicated. Email marketing. Oh, now I remember what I was going to say. Email marketing can seem dry, like, okay, I'm just sending out my blog post or I'm linking to a sales page or whatever. But in all actuality, like, think of when you go to your actual mailbox, right? And you've got, here we go. I got one right here. You got this stack of mail and you're searching for something that actually means something to you, right? Like, oh gosh, there's the Val pack. Oh gosh, there's this, like, oh crap, here's a check from the IRS. I'm opening that. I'm so glad I got a refund. And you're freaking excited, right? Or, you get something from an old friend or a client, or, those are the things you're searching for. Email is the same. People treat their inbox the same way. They're looking for something just for them. And so if you can be that person, not telling stories, but just giving that personal update and giving the value of whatever, it's not, it doesn't have to be complicated, and it becomes suddenly very simple. So, so that you can, be that when they're scrolling on their phone, like, oh my gosh, Lynn, yes, I know she's gonna, did she finally get that recipe perfected? Or like, oh, who's the next person on the podcast? Right? Because you're just making that quick connection, and you're not keeping it too long. The storytelling, like I said, if you don't have time to write it, they don't have time to read it. Okay. So just keeping it short, like just keeping it short, really, I think, that's where the market is going. So I think that's the biggest mistake. Also, of course, not being yourself. It makes it really hard to write an email if you're trying to be more professional than you are, or if you're trying to be casual when you're a professional, right? I know I have a friend that she's one of the most professional people I've ever met. Um, and, somebody emailed her and was like, what up, home slice, or something like that. And she was like, whoa, did they even read my, you know, they knew that what person wasn't for them, right? So just be who you are. And then the third thing, just that being inconsistent is a real, it's not the end of the world. If you haven't emailed your people in 6 months, I'm not saying give up on email marketing. There are ways to re-engage, but a lot of people will say, one newsletter every single week. I used to say that, but really it's, you know, be realistic with yourself about how often you can be consistent. If that's once a month, if that's once a week, you could build up that muscle, but just be consistent. And that goes all the way back to setting the expectations. If you set the expectation of, I'm going to send an email to you every other Tuesday, then they know that it's going to come every other Tuesday, so when you pop up, like, oh yeah, it's Tuesday, right? And so being consistent is like really good for you.
Yeah. Yeah. No, those are all good advice. And I think that, we have you can also do things within your email to automate, and things that you can do to really avoid that don't put you into someone's spam folder. So,
Hmm.
there's a lot of things like that you can work through. So, I'm going to sort of veer off here a little bit just to
Sure.
end the podcast, because your whole website is set up with your 90s theme. It's really fun. It's obviously just got loads of personality of who you are, and so I'm just sort of curious is about the vibe and how you decided to go with that, because it's a little different than maybe a different business approach to trying to to sell email marketing.
Yeah, so it goes back to that RV blog. Of course, it was myself. I mean, I told you at the beginning of this interview, I had a book about poop. Like, not everyone can pull that off. I know that. So I know that I do have this sort of dynamic personality. But over the years, I had that email list for about 3.5 years. I just realized that I wasn't being as myself as I wanted to be. The majority of my readers, I think it was 70, maybe even 75%, were, men in their 60s. spoiler alert, I'm not a man in my 60s. Uh, and I just found the more I got into it, the more products I was building, the more it was kind of a chore to send those emails. I felt like I couldn't really truly be myself. And so I went to start this new business. I said, you know what? I'm just going to be 100% Liz. I'm not going to be 60% Liz anymore. And of course, obviously, I'm not spreading my entire business out, my personal business out there, right? But I just wanted it to be fun because that's who I am. My two rules in life and business are to have fun and to not overthink things. So I wanted my business to reflect that, and I wanted to attract those types of people that were like, yes, I want to have more fun. I see so many people, digital marketers out there that say things like, if there's an easy way to start a business, I don't know what it is. Or they want to hit this 6-figure launch, but they've got to have these webinars and $10,000 in Facebook ads, and it's so complicated. It's like a spider web, and if you touch the wrong part, like, it's going to get sticky, right? I didn't want to build that type of business, and I don't want to teach people to build that type of business. So I really wanted to lean into the fun factor. And so, I set up a brand that when you go to lizwilcox.com, you immediately start smiling. You immediately, like, you kind of chuckle to yourself, like, what is this? Right?
Yeah,
Hopefully not in a bad
it's
way.
true.
Hopefully the copy makes it clear what it is, right? But the colors automatically stick out. I know there's a video of me where I'm, it kind of in your face right at the beginning. But also from a personal branding perspective, to get a little bit away from email marketing, to go to talk about branding a little bit, I also wanted something where if you were doing something throughout your day, listening to music, watching TV, something that everyone always does, I wanted a little piece or a little reminder of Liz Wilcox. So I know the next time Lynn is in her car and she hears a song from the 90s, she's going to think of that girl she interviewed way back when. And if she's got an email marketing problem, she's going to put it in her brain, I need to email Liz when I get home today. Whereas normally she would never think about me, right? She would just have that email marketing problem swirling in her head for 6 months, right? But because the Backstreet Boys came on, oh, I know Liz hates the Backstreet Boys. I need to email her. I really wanted to ask her that question, right? And so I actually just bought a frame and some spray paint today. I'm going to change the background. If you're watching the podcast, you can, or if you're listening, you can't see it, but I've got NSYNC posters in the background. I'm going to move my camera. I actually have a third up there.
Nice.
So I have a Fresh Prince painting that I'm going to frame today. I've got some other 90s memorabilia I'm going to put up here. I've got some Seinfeld stuff. And so just like when you're on your Instagram and you see Will Smith, or you're scrolling through TV and you see an episode of Seinfeld, I want you to think of Liz Wilcox. That's not an accident. That is very purposeful. That would be a whole nother podcast episode, but that is on purpose. I want you to be thinking about Liz Wilcox when you see all these nostalgic things. And the people that notice those things, that, oh, I love Seinfeld, oh, I love Will Smith, oh, I love NSYNC, or whatever, right? Those are the people that I know are going to like me. And so it's very purposeful and it's fun, so it's twofold, right? So it's great. It works really well for me. We're talking about it now. So if you're listening, think about what is it that you can insert into your brand that, oh, that's Christine, that's Amanda, that's Melissa. It used to be the RV thing. If people saw RVs, like little trinkets at Walmart, oh, I saw this and thought of you, Liz, right? So I couldn't do that. Not everyone is, oh, I opened my inbox and thought of you. That's not going to happen. So I had to get a little outside the box.
Yeah, no, that's terrific. That's a yeah,
Thank you.
I think that, to your point, if you don't have and bring that joy and energy, it that's part of work, and that is so much part of your life. So I definitely bring my laugh with me every day, and I got to have some fun with what we're doing, even when it's serious stuff. Um, so, Liz,
Yeah.
thank you so much for sharing these 3 simple strategies that can drastically improve email open rates. I was taking notes. If anybody noticed me looking down, it was because I was taking notes. I wasn't checking my iPhone. I got a whole scribble
Oh,
pad
I
here.
love to hear that.
So, uh, I definitely think that we're going to make a few tweaks on our end. And that's one of the most beautiful things about the podcast is you can pick something up that you can apply. And absolutely, Liz, today you brought it. You brought it that people can go and apply this right now today and make a difference and make a change for the better. So, Liz, thank you so much. And I know that our listeners are going to want to know where they can find out more about you. And you've mentioned your website, lizwilcox.com. But what do you have to share with us?
Yeah, so obviously I'm the email marketing lady. I want you to join my email list. You can go to lizwilcox.com and you can get actually that newsletter, that welcome sequence I was talking so much about. I actually, I wrote one a while ago and I've tweaked it and tweaked it and tweaked it, and you can just have it. You can go there, you'll see a pink box in the top right hand corner. It says free email swipes. You click on that, you're going to get the entire welcome sequence with that line and everything else. You'll get a video breakdown of why each email works and why I wrote it the way it is. You also get 3 newsletter examples. So I also don't believe you should write a newsletter in more than 20 minutes. That's all it should take you. So you'll see 3 examples of how I do that. And you get 52 subject lines. So think of those as prompts. So you never have to really think about what to write. You can just go to that list and get it. That's all for free at lizwilcox.com. Also, if you're really into the 90s and you want to put my trivia to the test, I'd love for you to follow me on Instagram. I share a ton of, email tips, but also some super fun, like late 90s, early 2000s, pop culture memes and stories and stuff like that. You can follow me at the Liz Wilcox.
All right. We will definitely get that added to our notes down below. So you can just click on those for everybody. And Liz, thank you again. This has been such a great discussion, filled with tons of information and tips. And if you, the audience, if you have ideas that you'd like to share, we would love to hear them. So leave us a comment. That's just hit that reply, right?
Yes.
And if you do have a question, yeah, and would like to or suggest a topic for discussion, you can email us at jointheconversation@petitetoqueen.com. And to stay current with all our insightful advice, our advantages that we offer, the incredible resources and interviews like this one on our podcast, sign up for our weekly Wisdoms newsletter. You will get that welcome news sequence, and you're going to get the links every week to shows like this that are so amazing. So thank you everyone for listening. Liz, Amanda, thank you so much for what a great, great conversation today.
Thank you
so much.